G'day guys and welcome back to Torque Hub. Well, we're back here with the Procharged XY and we're actually really close to firing it up. It's not going to go very far without any spark. So today we're going to talk about wiring up an MSD 6AL-2 programmable to suit boost. Like I said before, we're going to start talking about the MSD ignition setup. Now, if you have seen in one of our previous episodes, we'll link somewhere up here, we've already mounted the box and whatnot in the car, but I've pulled it all out so that we can show you how it comes in here, because everyone loves a good unboxing video. So if you've done any research on blow through carby setups, you'd be pretty well aware of the 6530 box. It's what most people run. They either run that or a grid setup for the most part. This is a 65303, so 6530 with a 3 on the end because it is black. This one is the black edition and we got ours from RCE in Queensland. I'm pretty sure on their website at the moment these are about $670 something. Probably should have checked that before the video, but I'm thinking it was about that much. So this is what we're going to get in the box. Alright, so first up we've got a bag of goodies. This is all Scotch locks which go right in the bin. Straight to the bin. That's the first thing you do. Open that bag, take the Scotch locks out and put them in the bin. They do not belong in a vehicle of any kind, ever. Don't do it. It's also got a couple of tails, just like extension tails or whatever for when you're making your wires. Some terminals, and it's also got the rubber mounting isolation bushes which are already in the car, like I said before. So you get your sweet box. Like I say, this one is 6AL2, just like any other one, except this one's black. Just looks a little bit neater in my opinion. Some people like the black one, but some people like the red one, sorry, but for me the black is the go. And it's got all of these tails on there. This will do everything that you need it to do. It'll give you base timing, it'll give you timing retard for boost, nitrous, two-step rev limiter, it'll give you burnout rev limiter, the whole shebang. So this here is the one-stop shop when it comes to your ignition. It's not like an ECU though. It will take timing away, but it won't add timing in. So you need to set your base timing to what you want as your maximum timing, and then we'll set the retard curve from there. And I'll show you that a little bit later on with the MSD software. But this doesn't add timing. So if you need something that does that, look elsewhere. You'll also get a nice little wiring harness. So these are all nicely Deutsch connected, and it's got a fairly long lead. You might need to extend it and that's fine. You might need to shorten it and that is fine as well. So these ones, you can just cut it and re-terminate it to whatever length you need, or you can cut these terminals off and use Deutsch connectors of your own, or weather pack plugs, or whatever your preference is. Probably don't solder. Not a big fan of soldering personally, just because it can get brittle. I know there'll be some people saying, oh, I've done it and it's lasted 30 years. That's great. I'm really happy for you, but there is a better way. It also helps with this being quite modular as well. If you've got the plug, you just unplug it and take it out. If it's soldered, that's it. It's there forever. So keep that in mind when you are doing your wiring. But this wiring harness, that's your main power harness there. This one will be for your coil, and that one there is just to the battery. So this one here will do all of your things like your timing retard inputs, ignition input, etc, etc. This one here is particularly important for us. This is a crank trigger extension harness, 6 foot. We are using a crank trigger setup on this car, so it's very important. We will need to shorten this one in our setup. Once again, that's okay. Just probably use a plug, and it's really important when you're doing this one to keep it away from things like your alternator or your battery or anything that's going to give you electrical noise. This is the most important part of your ignition system. If you don't get a clean ignition signal from your crank, it's done and dusted. So do take care of it. You can see it's sheathed to try and help protect it from any voltage spikes or anything like that, but just be mindful when you are wiring with this sort of stuff to keep it away from any noise. And lastly, you got your computer cable here. Now this is super old school, these old serial connectors. If you've got an old laptop or an old computer at home, dig it out, see if it'll boot up, because that'll probably be really handy for this. You can get serial to USB adapters, but depending on what operating system you use, whether you're someone that uses a Mac or if it's Windows 10 or XP or whatever, they'll have different protocols on what converters or adapters that you need. So that is something that you'll need to source outside of here because it doesn't come in the box. You've also got your basic MSD instruction manual and just like a tech bulletin for rotor phasing, which obviously tells you things like how far you can and can't advance, because obviously you'll jump teeth, or not teeth, that'd be points on the distributor. You go to different points on the distributor, and basic catalog. This disc here, once again, if you've got an old computer that still has a disk drive, you can use this disc to get the software for your MSD. Otherwise, you can download it from the MSD or Holly Performance website, and I'll put a link for that in the description so that you can find it. It's really easy to download. It's very basic software, and I'll show you that once we get this in the car and we're getting ready to put the base map in. I'll show you what that software looks like. Wiring it is crazy simple. It's so simple that they've even put the wiring diagram on the back. It is really basic. It's obviously all covered in here as well, but essentially to make this here work, you need positive and negative to the battery, and I do recommend you put it to the battery, not just a 12 volt source and a ground. It does give this the best chance it's got. You also need to go to your coil, an ignition trigger. The rest of these for your limiters and stuff, you don't necessarily need, just the ignition trigger. This would either go to your magnetic signal or magnetic style dizzy or your crank trigger. And now this part here is for your map sensor. Now we are talking about getting this one wired up for boost. You do need a map sensor input. That doesn't come in the box, but we did get one. This is just a very basic GM style from MSD. There's the part number there. GM style 3-bar map sensor. It has a weather pack plug, which goes to here, but obviously, unless you're going to mount your map sensor right next to the box, that isn't going to be long enough. So you can go to most auto parts stores and get a 3-way weather pack connector, and that's got all the seals, pins, ends, so you can make an extension harness. I haven't seen a really good extension harness that you can buy, and plus, even if you buy one, it's probably going to be the wrong length. So just make sure you get yourself a good set of crimpers, and you can get these plugs here, and you can make up the harness to suit, which is what we'll do a little bit later on. So that's a pretty good rundown on what you get in the box and what you need to get this job done. So I dare say from here, let's get it in the car.
Give me power!
I'll just put it the right way, shall I?
can to your left. Mark that down in your calendar. Fucking Kurt told you where something was.
It'll be just as memorable as 9/11 or Christmas Day. And there you go, she ain't going nowhere. And by that I mean I'm not fucking moving it. Alright, so there's only so much strip and wire, crimp and wire that you can probably take, but you'll be able to see in here we've got it pretty much all wired up. Now don't go judging us for this. This is from the previous build that's had other stuff added on, and it's only temporary because eventually all the battery and everything's going in the boot. So no judgy. But we've got the box mounted back there behind the battery. As I said, we got positive and negative. The only wires that have gone behind the dash was the accessories trigger and the tacho input wire, which is a grey one. Make sure when you're getting your accessories trigger that it works on both accessories and start. Otherwise, when you hit the starter, it's going to cut your ignition, and you're going to wonder why, because you've got accessories power but hasn't got start power. So pro tip, make sure that's all good. You can see we've got the crank trigger wire just running across there, forward and then up. The coil wire, I actually ran it through the chassis rail with a grommet, and then it comes up and over. And you saw me make those weather pack plugs for the map sensor, which we've just put over here. So it really is as simple as that. Pretty much plug and play. There's not too much to it. But from here, what I've got to do now is I can set the base timing, and then we'll run a map into the MSD box, and from there we'll be ready to rock and roll. So there we have it, base timing is set. So what do we do next? Well, I thought I would give you guys a quick look at what we get here with the MSD software. So this is a programmable box, which means you can use one of these MSD Pro Data programs to set up your retard map and whatnot. You will need one of these. This is a serial to USB connector. It's pretty old school sort of stuff. That end obviously goes into the MSD box and the USB into your computer. Now, if you're like me and you're not super tech savvy, just bear in mind those probably won't work straight out of the box with your more modern computers. As you can tell, this software is pretty primitive, and you know, so is the running behind it. So you will need to install the right drivers in order to get these cords to work, but they are very inexpensive, about 15 bucks or thereabouts on eBay. And there's heaps of info on the MSD tech forums if you need any help with getting those to work. But as you can see here, I'll give you a quick rundown. So on the software, you've got basically your RPM and your timing retard down here. So for starting, we've retarded the timing 18 degrees. That's to about 500 RPM. Remember, we had 28 degrees base timing, so that means it'll start on 10 degrees of timing. Then it'll taper up to 1200 RPM where there's zero retard. So it'll be at 28 degrees locked the whole way through. Now, we could put a sweet little timing curve in there and all the rest of it, but I'm not a tuner. This is just to get it running. When we take this up to Performance Carb, Wayne will put all the tuning in to make this thing spotty dog, but we're just gonna get it so that we can start it, get it up to temp, run it down the road, make sure it gets all the gears, has oil pressure and everything before we get to the dyno. You can also see this other graph here, which is our boost retard curve. So I've put in there that we have a 3-bar map sensor, as you can see there at 45 PSI. That's 45 PSI of atmospheric pressure. So absolute pressure would probably be the correct term. So here at about 16.7, which is 2 pounds of boost, we started to taper the timing off. So it's about 1 degree per pound of boost until we get to about 17 pound, and then after that I've basically just pulled all the timing out of it. I don't think it's going to get any further than that, but if it does say get up to 17 pound of boost, I mean, for what we're doing when we're driving, we're probably not going to get that far regardless, but that'll just pull all the timing out, and this will give us a good start. So over here we've got our burnout rev limiter at 7,000 RPM, max rev limiter 9,500 RPM, and I'll change all of those. So we'll probably bring our max RPM down. It's so simple. It's a little bit laggy though when it's not hooked up to the box. So I'll bring that down. 7,000. Save to PC. And there you go. And we can change all of our limiters just down here in that little side box. But really easy to set up, guys, and just super simple to work with. As you can see, you basically just put a dot in, move it to where you want, but it only takes timing away. It won't add timing in from your base. So that's why we've set it at 28 degrees. That's the maximum amount of timing that we're going to get, and really that's the maximum amount of timing we're going to want. So if you wanted more, you could set it to 32, but remember, if you do try and pull too much timing, you're going to run into rotor phasing issues on your Dizzy. This isn't fuel injection, this isn't coil on plug, so you do have some limitations, but for this particular setup, this is going to be absolutely mint. So take one more look at it, guys, because this is the last episode where this engine doesn't run. It is gonna happen very soon. Over here, see on the table, we've got our flex plate, we've got our tail shaft, we've got our torque converter in that box there, and Kurt will be back in the next video giving me a hand so that we can get this thing wrapped up. So make sure you're back. I know we've strung you along far enough, so hit that subscribe button on the next video. This thing here, she's gonna breathe into life, and straight out of the extractors, you know she's gonna make a filthy noise. So thanks again so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you got something out of it for wiring up MSD on your car, and until next time, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.